Hey guys, JV here with a commentary on Destiny 2. In just 3 short weeks, the sequel will be out and I am so excited to return to this world. Since the launch of Destiny 1, there were a number of reasons why I stopped playing the game over the years. While I put it down several different times, Bungie always seemed to draw me back with the next big expansion. Today we'll discuss how I believe Destiny 2 can pull us in and keep us playing for years to come. As always, if you like what I do here and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. I wanted to start off by describing how I played the original game. So I was a Destiny addict on launch. It was a game I was super hyped for and I played a ton of. I mean, several hours every single day. And there was also a time where my channel was 100% Destiny. It was Destiny tips and tricks every single day, similar to what I did with Mass Effect and Fallout 4. And by far, my favorite experiences were strikes and raids. But raids, hands down, that was the best experience for me. It's the experience that I wanted, and it absolutely delivered, and it also surprised me at the same time. I will never forget the days of Vault of Glass when it first came out. Figuring out how to even get into the raid was a little bit of a puzzle, struggling through the puzzles within, like the mazes, the mini bosses, everything leading up to Atheon as well, the final boss. I just think that Vault of Glass was the perfect example of how a Destiny raid should be. Long story short, I was sucked in for an extended period of time from the beginning, and then I slowly realized that Destiny didn't meet my personal expectations, which I think was just, my issue, not the game's issue. But I also realized that Destiny required you to accept repetition to a certain extent. There was a certain amount of content that the game came with and a certain amount that they were going to release, but no matter what, if you wanted to keep playing Destiny, you had to repeat a lot of the same stuff over and over. And we can discuss this and debate all day long whether Destiny had enough content to warrant a $60 purchase in the beginning and whether the expansions actually added enough for their price, but no matter what, I always wanted a constant flow of new content from Destiny. I wanted this game to keep delivering and keep me playing all the time, but from my perspective, Bungie didn't necessarily deliver on that. There was not something that kept me playing constantly. I would put the game down and pick it back up, over and over again based on when there were new updates. And before I continue, I want to clarify that my interest in Destiny, about 75, maybe even 90%, I won't lowball it, 90% of my interest in Destiny is in PvE content. It's not PvP. So there was probably plenty of new PvP stuff to play around with, and I will note that. However, just know where I'm coming from in my perspective. Let's take a look back at how Destiny 1 handled new content, and I'm not going to cover everything because there was a lot of stuff, especially balancing patches that changed up the meta and might have, represented a new experience for you, but I'm really looking at new content, brand new stuff that was added to the game. The first expansion for Destiny was The Dark Below, and it came out 4 months after launch. It added a new raid, new light levels, new strike, a lot of new different things, so it was a legit expansion with plenty of stuff to offer. And so this came out once again 4 months after launch, but after that it was followed by 6 months of no significant player versus environment updates. Nothing for someone like me who wants to experience story, raids, stuff like that to enjoy. In mid-2015, House of Wolves came out. That was the next expansion, and it came with Prison of Elders, which was an arena mode that is, PvE. It's something that I would be interested in, but I was not a fan of it because it relied so heavily on the game's, theme of repetition, something you're already expected to do, but magnified in this small area that really didn't offer, a new experience for me. So I really didn't like that mode. I didn't think that it delivered on the promise of a raid by any stretch of the imagination, just my opinions. But also we got Trials of Osiris with PvP, something that was kind of like Iron Banner, a cyclical thing that would come back and go away and come back, kind of an event type thing. And also we got more light levels. That's something we got with a lot of expansions and updates. This one was followed by another 4 months with no significant PvE updates, nothing for someone like me to enjoy. And then The Taken King came out a year after launch. This was much more of an expansion. It had a higher price point. I think it was like $40, something like that on launch. Had new enemies, a new raid, new subclasses, new story to experience. It really was a legitimate expansion that offered a lot more to do. But the problem was, once you were done with that, This expansion was followed by 12 months with no significant PvE update. Bungie kind of changed their formula, and it resulted in a full year of nothing significant to me. Once again, of course, you could argue the April update in 2015 changed a lot of stuff. Sorry, 2016 changed a lot of stuff, how you're playing the game, the meta, but it wasn't like a DLC or an expansion. That brings us to late 2016 when Rise of Iron released. This was 2 years after launch. This was another huge, big expansion with a new story, new enemies, light level, patrol zone, raid, all of that good stuff. I enjoyed my time with it, but again, there was nothing significant released after that, and that represented pretty much another year-long drought in Destiny content. So the Age of Triumph update was cool. It had stuff to do to celebrate your adventures in Destiny, but it was not like the others. Once again, it was like the April update, no new significant content. So when I look back at Destiny and its post-content, delivering and offering, it ended up with most of the content coming out in the first year after launch. From September 2014 to September 2015, there were 3 expansions released. And then the only significant update from 2015 on to present was Rise of Iron, right? That was in late 2016. So essentially years 2 and 3 were represented by one expansion and a lot of little updates and balance tweaks. And that right there, very simply, is why I stopped playing. There just wasn't enough constant flow of new content to keep me playing. The big thing these days is live service, games as a service. Now you pay a certain amount of money, but you can expect new updates with new contents. And in 2017, that's the big deal. And whenever I think about who does this right and best, Blizzard comes to mind with Overwatch. And keep in mind, Overwatch is nowhere close to Destiny as a game. It's fundamentally different if you're trying to compare it. That's not what I'm trying to do here. However, they both share a live service model, the promise of new stuff coming constantly so you keep playing the game. However, when we're making this distinction, it's important to note that Bungie relies on a DLC model instead of free content updates. You're not just paying $60 at launch, you're paying for more. So we have to keep that in mind. The reason I think Overwatch gets it right is because it always has something new to look forward to, and there's rarely a drought between new content. We can start from launch, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So Ana was the first new thing in Overwatch. She came out in July, 2 months after launch. Then in August, we had Summer Games for the first time. Then we had Halloween in October, and actually this is probably the longest drought. From Summer Games in August 2016 to Halloween, it was almost 60 days, not quite. Then we had Sombra, a new character, in November. Winter Wonderland followed in December. Then in the new year, we had Lunar New Year from January to February. We had Orisa, a new character, in March. Uprising was in April. The anniversary event was in May and June. Then Doomfist just dropped July very recently, and now we have Summer Games in August. The only months where there has not been a new character or a new event running were June, the month after launch, which is to be expected, and September back in 2016. So what we're looking at is a constant flow of new stuff to look forward to, and this is not to mention new maps that were released and arcade modes, stuff like that. Just looking at this timeline demonstrates perfectly the idea that Overwatch always has something new to play or something to look forward to, and that's really where you want to be if you're trying to push this live service model. So, what do I want for Destiny 2? I always want to have something to look forward to and something new to play. The problem was, looking back at it, once the new thing came out, we saw a 4-month, 6-month, another 4-month, and another 12-month break in between content. If there was something new and expected every single month, it would absolutely keep me playing. The big thing that I look at is events, and I don't think they worked in Destiny, plain and simple. The Crimson Days, the Dawning, Sparrow Racing League, things like that did not work. They fell flat for me. And then we had modes like Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris that were great for PvP players, really a big hit with a lot of the player base, but PvE players like me were left out to dry. We didn't have something to play and really enjoy. From the beginning, Destiny has been a multifaceted game that offers, PvE stuff, PvP stuff, really anything that you would want to play, but it needs to find a way to consistently stay relevant in all phases. I don't believe it did that with the original game, which is why there was a lot of turnover between these big content drops. In terms of the events, they need to have an impact on the overall metagame. They just felt separate and really irrelevant in the overall grand scheme of things. And the thing about Overwatch, returning to that, is that those skins in the events have value. People crave and desire new skins, and that's wrapped into the free model. That's the beauty of it with Overwatch. Again, Destiny is already committed to the DLC model, so it's going to be tricky to see how they can maintain and keep us playing between these content drops. Let's say worst case scenario, there's going to be more content droughts with Destiny 2. I really want them to consistently release new raids. If it takes every 3 or 4 months, fine, but also find a way to make older raids relevant again. I want to return to these experiences because they were really fun the first time, but once you put out a new one, the old ones are completely irrelevant. I hope they don't make the same mistake this time. Just some closing thoughts. No, I don't expect Destiny 2 to match what Overwatch does in terms of constant new content, the flow of it, always looking forward to something new. I think they can shoot for it, but I don't think they will, simply because Overwatch is much more simple, right? There's not a lot of moving parts. In Destiny, things are very complex. However, Blizzard shows us that games with repetition can continue to be relevant and successful far after their original launch. Bungie can take a lot of cues from Blizzard and always have something new to look forward to. Consistent new content that's relevant, that matters. You know, that's what would keep me playing instead of stopping during droughts of content. That's it for me. So turning over to you guys, how can Destiny 2 keep you playing? Is there some kind of special thing they could do, always having new content, always having something to look forward to like I mentioned, or do you think they need to focus more on PvP, more on PvE? Let me know what you're thinking in the comment section below. If you stayed till the end and enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe for more content. Check out my latest videos by clicking the links on screen. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you don't miss another video. Sign up with Juniper to receive exclusive discounts on shirts, hoodies, and more at the JV merch store. Click the link for more details. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.